Gooner game, Gooner game, Gooner game, Gooner game, Gooner game. Ever since Zenless Zone Zero released, that is the #1 most consistent complaint I've seen. Reddit, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, everywhere I look, I've seen a lot of people talk about how the fan service of Zenless is so astronomically bad that they quit the game in pure disgust because of it. Now, don't get me wrong, there are other criticisms for this game as well. I have offered plenty of my own, but I won't be talking about those today. I want to discuss this specific criticism. Is Zenless Zone Zero a Gooner game, and if yes, does it ruin the game? Before we begin, let's first establish what Gooner means, since not everybody might know. Depending on the context, Gooner actually has a couple of different meanings, so let's quickly go over them. A Gooner is somebody who is heavily addicted to pornography. Gooning is the act of masturbating until the point of almost climaxing. The person will then stop, edging themselves in order to feel some form of heightened pleasure. A Gooner game is a game that heavily relies on fan service to draw in players. Skimpy or otherwise sexualized character designs, buyable skins that put characters in skimpy outfits, story moments that focus on characters pining after the main character, etc, etc. With that established, once again I ask, is Zenless a Gooner game, and does that ruin it? First, I want to talk about the advertising for Zenless. Ever since the original reveal trailer, one of the main focuses of the marketing has been boobs and butts. We have been staring at Nicole's breasts flopping all over the place since day one. However, while TNA was focused on, it wasn't the only aspect of ads. All the way up to the official launch, there was a fairly healthy balance of fan service and showcasing other aspects of the game: music, animation quality, and gameplay. However, marketing for this game has taken a noticeable shift in focus ever since Jane Doe released. Most of Jane's marketing heavily leaned into showing how hot Jane was. Most of her 2D story trailer was her flirting with this random cop girl.
Identity.
Oh gosh, your tail touched me.
Oh, did it? I'm just turning off your body cam.
And her 3D animation had her interrogate some random thug while crawling all over her. And let's not forget the apple. Now you might be thinking, wow, I can't believe they objectified her like this. Well, here's the thing. Jane Doe fits into a character archetype called a femme fatale, a woman who uses her beauty and body in order to achieve her goals. Jane specifically is a cop who often goes undercover, and one of the tools she uses to complete her missions is her beauty. So having ads that are so erotic makes perfect sense for her character. But what about characters like Caesar, Bernice, and Yanagi? The other trailers we've gotten since Jane released. Caesar's 2D trailer mostly focused on her childhood. Thankfully, they didn't do anything creepy with that. Her 3D trailer was a dope biker fight with some dope music. But randomly at the end, we get a scene where she and the other women of the Sons of Caledon gang take a shower together. I honestly don't like this part of the trailer because of how random this entire sequence is. I mentioned this in my previous video, link in the description, but I don't like when fanservice blindsides me out of nowhere. This sequence is fanservice for the sake of fanservice. It doesn't make sense for the character or even the trailer itself. It's overly gratuitous. The Bernice trailer was a fun meme video where she threw a giant dance party and did a bunch of meme dances. There is one shot that zooms in on her breast, but besides that, it's fairly tame. Most recently, we got the Yanagi trailers. Her 2D trailer was mainly story focused. It showed us a lot about her past, and it was honestly really good. The 3D one was odd. Nothing really happens. It's just Yanagi walking around for 3 minutes trying to find Miyabi. There is, however, a bunch of close-up shots of her body, as well as Yanagi just bending over so the viewer can get a good look at her butt. Boing! The ending sequence is nice, but all in all, this trailer is bizarre. The main purpose of it was to show off Yanagi's body. Nothing more, nothing less. For some reason, the marketing team decided to hyper-focus on the fan service aspect of Zenless. There hasn't really been any marketing focused on the gameplay, music, or anything else that the game has to offer since the game was released, in all honesty. The reason this is a problem is because it creates a false idea of what Zenless is to people who are discovering the game for the first time. The marketing would have you believe Zenless is a hyper fan service game similar to games like Nikke, Azure Lane, Destiny Child, Snowbreak, Girls Frontline 1 and 2, and Outer Plane to name a few. A game that is constantly throwing a bunch of half-naked women in bikinis at you, when in reality, it's not. The game itself has very little actual fan service. I've seen a lot of people say that they want to play Zenless because the gameplay looks fun, but they don't because it looks like a hyper fan service game, and that's something they're just simply not interested in playing. This is frustrating because anybody who has actually played the game can tell you that it only has a little more fan service than what you can find in Genshin or Star Rail. In terms of gameplay, the most overtly fanservicey things are the walking animations. Currently, only 6 characters can walk, and Jane Doe specifically has some very detailed physics when she walks. But like I said, this fits her character archetype, so it's not a big deal. Eventually, every character is going to have a walking animation, but realistically, most characters will walk similarly to Weiss, Belle, and Caesar, where they just walk normally. Because of how fast-paced the combat is, you aren't going to notice the jiggle physics of the characters. The only way you would is if you go out of your way to stare at the characters, and even then, it's still very difficult to see it. But at that point, you're just looking for a reason to be upset if you don't like it. I will admit the victory screens can be very suspect at times. Depending on the character, and more importantly, the attack you are performing, the camera can sometimes put your character in a compromising position, zooming in on butts and breasts, but usually it doesn't. Characters just strike a cool pose most of the time. The final fanservice thing I can think of would be the cinema landscape. Every character has 3 pictures tied to their cinema, aka duplicate system: inverted, highlighted, and full color. Full color specifically usually depicts characters with either no clothing or very little. I can understand why some people might not like this, but you do have the option to select which picture you see, so I don't think this is that big of a deal. All in all, while Zenless has a reputation of being MiHoYo's most fanservicey title currently, and it probably is, it is nowhere near as bad as a lot of people make it out to be. I've seen many people say that the game is constantly throwing half-naked women with crazy boob physics at the player, but as I've shown, that isn't really the case. I truly have no idea what people are talking about when they give this type of criticism. What's odd about the constant comparison to Genshin and Star Rail is that those games also have fan service. Need I remind you of Lisa's moaning? Or the fact that you can stare at people's butts while gliding? Raiden is wearing a slutty kimono, and Yai is a slutty shrine maiden. The recently released Mualani is showing more skin than any of the currently playable Zenless characters. Star Rail also has characters showing a decent amount of skin, and their duplicate system also shows the character with no clothes on. To me, it seems that people are going out of their way to try and demonize Zenless, spreading this false picture of what the game is actually like. I understand that not everybody likes over jiggle physics, and the marketing hyper-focusing on the fan service is definitely odd considering how little is actually in the game, but the hate seems so forced to me. This time, I don't actually have any meaningful insight to give you guys. I legit don't know why people have this odd hatred of the game. Feel free to give your own theories in the comments, I suppose. All that being said, it seems to me that Zenless is currently at a crossroads. In one path, we have the game continuing to do what it is currently doing. The marketing will focus on fan service, while the game itself will have nowhere near the amount shown in ads. On the other path, we have Zenless, the game itself, releasing more fan service content. Skins, Jane Doe level jiggle physics, their own version of the dorm system from Snowbreak or Girls Frontline 2. Personally, I hope they stick to the current path. Having played gacha since 2011, I've noticed that when games undergo a shift in focus and chase fan service money, they heavily drop in quality. I don't mind ads focusing on obvious fan service every now and then, but I really hope that Miyabi's marketing actually takes itself seriously. Miyabi's trailers focusing on her tits would be super disappointing to me. I want some cool trailers where she single-handedly fights an army of monsters, Devil May Cry style. I honestly think that would make her banner far more successful than just watching her boobs bounce for 3 minutes. Hey everyone, Vladimir here. Hope you enjoyed the video. I would really appreciate it if you guys left a like, dislike, comment, subscribe, or don't. It's up to you. And if you somehow aren't sick of my voice yet, then feel free to watch one of my other videos. Just press on one of the videos on the screen. Either way, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.